you check off the box, and you do not stop until it's checked.
So why does failure happen? So if we can sit here and have this conversation about keeping going and when should we quit, and then I'm sure a ton of the topics and things we can learn from the book. Why do we fail?
Well, what I have figured out through my own reflections, only for myself, is failure is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder.
Mm.
And so the failure side for me, that part of the journey, I incorrectly thought it was the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't.
You thought it was the end of the race, end of the game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's a game, right? Games are 4 quarters. I thought that journey was the 4 quarters. In reality, it was the first quarter. And I didn't realize that until after I removed myself from it and go, wow, I have a lot to give. I have a lot to do. I'm moving into my second quarter here.
Yeah, if we're going to keep going, I just love the conversation because, in all these podcasts and people we talk to, we touch on the nuance of things. And the reality is that what is failure? Like, isn't failure just like the day that you just decide, like, I'm done? Like, that's it. And then
that is literally
right. But then the idea is that might not even be failure, because then, like, what are you going to do and take all that experience that you've had in life? Like, what are you going to do with it now? So when a business ends, is that even failure? Like, does the word even apply? It might not apply.
I think the only real failure there is not so much a business ending or anything else. It's simply you completely giving up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, because Maurice Forleo in the book, Everything's Figure Outable, she actually removed the term. She says that it's not failure, it's just learning.
Yeah, I believe that.
Right. But man, it took a lot of the F word for us to then believe that. Because how many times through your journey did your brain have a conversation with that word of failure or feel it? A lot, didn't it?
Every day. But that went back to, for me, my greatest fear was the fear of failure. And so we did a lot of personality analysis and mapping. And what that actually is, it's not the fear of failure. It's the fear of shame from failure.
Mm.
So that's what I was running from. And so going back to your previous statement, isn't it all just learning? Well, I was running from the fear of shame, from failing in other people's eyes, not my own.
How'd you get over that?
Failing publicly. being exposed to all of my every little fear I had exposed. And so then you had nowhere to go. You're sitting there and you're like, oh man, everything I've ever worried about or been scared about is here. And you're still alive, still have your health. Your kids don't even know, right? Yeah. They still love you. They want to watch a movie. They want you to coach their sports. You still get to watch the sunrise and the sunset. There's still dinner. And so then it's your responsibility to use it as a learning lesson, because, I mean, what are you going to be if you quit in front of your children and just give up? That's no way to do it.
I'm already a huge Greg Vetter fan. I kind of knew I was going to be. But I was sitting here as you were talking. I was listening, like hopefully a lot of other people do, and go spend a few dollars and, the nickels they've rubbed together to buy your book and listen. But I think the most important, I'm sitting here learning in what I've appreciated most about my failure, the big ones, is it cleaned out the BS people in my life.
Dude, they leave quick. And they start talking trash quick too.
Because I don't think they would have filtered out without it.
Totally agree.
What do you hope we take away when we read this book? I'm hoping it's a book from those that want to start the journey, that are maybe the Mark and the Gregs of years ago when we started. But I hope it's also for a guy like me.
The reason I actually wrote the book, and I didn't want to write one, my performance coach convinced me to do it. And he's a high profile performance coach. He deals with a lot of pro athletes and famous people. And he goes, dude, I spend 99% of my time convincing people to not write a book because they don't have anything to say. And they're doing it almost as an ego tribute. You have actual information that can help people. And so when I realized it was the book I wanted to read at 24, and the book I was searching for at 30, and then the book I needed to read at 40 and 41, it has every phase of the journey in there to give perspective and to give the learning lessons from the beating I took. And so I hope people use it as a pressure test on whether or not to do the journey. Are you prepared? If this is what it's going to be, are you prepared for that?
Because isn't that what it's going to be? Like, it's going to be that.
It is that. And people told me that, the old gray hairs, they're like, dude, you don't know what you're signing up for. I'm like, I want it. They're like, I don't think you want it. I'm like, I want it. And then as I'm just getting beat, I would see those guys, they go, how's it going? I'm like, it's everything you said it was going to be. They go, yeah, I know. That's why I got gray hair, brother. And so it's a pressure test, 1. 2, it's a field guide for the people that are in the thick of it to avoid some of the mistakes that I made. And then for the later stage dreamers, entrepreneurs, leaders, it is a perspective test of where are you spending your time? Are you prioritizing the right stuff if this stuff happens? And are you prepared to pick yourself up and move into the second quarter and not just lay down in the mud crying, waiting for somebody to come pick you up?
They're not coming. As Mel Robbins says,
they're not coming.
They're not coming. And even the ones who, the few people in our lives that want to come, most people, I'll say this, all the people that haven't traveled the journey, they can't help.
They're not strong enough to pick you up.
That's it.
They can come and check in on you. Are you okay?
Shoulder to cry on, I guess.
Right. But they're not picking up my 215 to 220 pound butt and putting it on their shoulder and carrying me out of there.
Or writing the $75,000 check. This isn't about going to the grocery store and buying you groceries to eat. That's not going to help.
Right.
It's about, do you have the 75 grand that's necessary for me to like dig out of this hole just to get back to the normal level of surface again? And then even when that happens, it may happen again.
Yeah.